Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of Edie Marks Weather. Great to have you here with me today on the channel. We're going to be watching what's left of Invest 93L here. We're also going to be watching the prospect of a potential stalled frontal boundary later this month. It could kick off the potential for another tropical wave to move into the eastern Gulf off the southeast coast and maybe try to spin up. And we're also going to be taking a look at the rest of the tropics, the MDR out here, the Cape Verde season, all these waves coming in from Africa here, Central Africa. We're going to see a major uptick in tropical wave action, and that's all going to be heading towards the Caribbean and eventually the Gulf. We're going to see a major uptick in potential storm activity later this July into August. And come the end of the month, could we see an unexpected area of low pressure? A cutoff low along the U.S. East Coast cause some storminess into the early part of August. And we could be looking at some serious severe weather developing for the weekend through parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and into the Northeast. Let's get into it. I just wanted to show you the infrared satellite view of Invest 93L. Here it is over Louisiana, getting into portions of eastern Texas. You can see still a lot of feeder bands here. Obviously, this didn't develop into a tropical storm, but it is packing a punch, and you can see all the lightning associated with it as well. So it's causing some flooding problems, and of course, you'll have to watch out for some severe weather as well. And the infrared satellite view of the Caribbean here. Yeah, some flare-ups here north of Jamaica. You got a little bit on the north side here, also just north of Dominican Republic, and a tropical wave southeast of Trinidad Tobago. Watch out around Cancun as well, South Florida. And I wanted to show you, look at this massive tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa here. This is getting ready to emerge, and it is packing a punch. All right, so starting off here with the tropics with the GFS model. Yeah, there's what's left of our Invest 93L system. High pressure just nosing to the west here, and what's left of it stalling with heavy downpours over eastern Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, the Panhandle of Florida. So if we look to what's next, we're going to start looking out here in the Cape Verde season. This is where things are really going to crop up. I know you need some rain here into portions of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cancun, these areas, the northern Caribbean islands as well. It's been so hot as of late. But look what we're going to be watching here. These areas in the MDR, and also this stalled frontal boundary as we head on into next week, the 21st. There is what's happening. This first one, series of energy coming down as high pressure builds across the east coast up here, the northeast coast. That's going to bring this frontal boundary further south into South Carolina, and we're going to start to see some flare-up of showers and thunderstorms across Florida again. So more heavy rain coming for Florida, and then it gets into the eastern Gulf right around the 23rd here. While that's occurring, we're watching some big tropical wave action out in the Cape Verde season out here. And as we just pinwheel, I just want to show you Central Africa. Look at this. We've got a series of major tropical waves lining up here. One ready to come right off the coast, the 24th here, and they're just going to keep lining up as we continue to go through time here. So let's just zoom out a bit. I'll show you what's going to be happening with these potential systems. So right around the 24th, the North Central Gulf taking a more southerly route, at least on this version of the GFS run, and then heading towards Texas here. So the GFS kind of doesn't do much with it here, but it does flare it up during the day with spiraling showers and thunderstorms along the southeast Texas coastline before making inland landfall here, so to speak, depending on whether this is a tropical system. Now, I just want to back this up a bit because look what's going to be happening during this time right around Trinidad, Tobago, the 22nd. Things are going to really start to moisten up here around Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada areas, St. Lucia, Martinique, St. Vincent, Barbados. These areas, watch out. Also Honduras here as we head into next week, middle to latter portion of next week. And there's that tropical wave. It's getting into the eastern Caribbean right around the 25th, just due south of Puerto Rico. And you can see that's lifting to the northwest. This is also showing up on the European run, which I'm going to show you in just a couple minutes from now. But here it is, moving across the island of Hispaniola, even some flaring up some showers around Jamaica here, the 26th into the 27th. And a bigger tropical wave really gets cranking east of Nicaragua and Honduras here. Also another tropical wave. It's reorganizing just north of the Dominican Republic. And obviously, we see our big stalled frontal boundary off the U.S. East Coast. But here it is, big, strong tropical wave bearing down on Belize, also the Yucatan Peninsula here. So there you have it, re-emerging towards the Bay of Campeche as a weaker storm. Look at this, though, the 31st. This is going to be a series of pieces of energy, a cutoff low along the U.S. East Coast, which also could stand to develop something. So that's something we have to watch. Look at this big subtropical high out here, and look what's waiting for us out here. This is the 31st, the last day, obviously, of July. Massive tropical waves out here, just one right after another lining up. So as we watch this, here's August 1st, last frame here, the Intertropical Convergence Zone, the MDR, and then as we head across Central Africa, we are looking at some major tropical wave action just lining up here, just one right after another. There's about 5 of them, 5 or 6 of them in here, and these will keep lining up. We'll be watching as we head into August, likely a much busier month. Speaking of busier month, look at this mess along the U.S. East Coast. And thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European tropical model analysis. So we're going to be watching a few things here. Obviously, what's left of Invest 93L here across Louisiana. That's going to flare up, especially in the diurnal heating here. Now, as we go through time, our attention is going to turn to this big wave here, southeast of Trinidad Tobago. Look at this. As we head through the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, that's going to surge some serious moisture. I wouldn't be surprised if some areas eclipse 100 millimeters here. I'm going to go over those rainfall amounts in several minutes from now, so stay tuned for that. But look at this, Monday, July 21st. I want to draw your attention up here. This is a stalled front. This is going to be the focal point for another potential spin up here. Maybe tropical wave, tropical disturbance. Also here, if we get this off our screen, the Southern Caribbean, we could be looking at a strong tropical wave. Another one forming southeast to Trinidad Tobago. That moves into Nicaragua and Honduras come the 21st here. And you see these flare-ups of showers and thunder showers around Jamaica, Dominican Republic next week. And look at the Lesser Antilles. We're really filling in here. Now look at this. Just off the southeast coast, this is where we start to get another spin-up start right around Florida next Tuesday. So here we go. We got a lot of tropical wave action out here in the ITCZ, and this tail end of the front bears watching. So it kind of just hangs out until it moves into the Eastern Gulf once again, July 23rd. So we got a surging tropical wave action out here around southeast of the Lesser Antilles. That's going to continue. And then look at come mid to late week next week, July 24th, right in the North Central Gulf, right where our Invest 93L has been hanging out. The European model going kind of crazy with this. Maybe watching for the potential of some system trying to develop here. The water temperatures are definitely supportive of it. But as we go through Friday, July 25th, you see we have a tropical wave here around Nicaragua and Honduras. Another one right through the central and southern Lesser Antilles. Trinidad Tobago all the way up to St. Vincent here. So watch out. Look at this. Yeah, this is right around July 25th. This is some strong tropical wave action moving through the Lesser Antilles, Saturday, July 26th. We're going to watch for the prospect here. We're going to start lining up these tropical waves across the Eastern Caribbean and the Western Atlantic. Look at this. Come the 27th, this one actually gets through Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and pulls all the way through the Virgin Islands, circling this subtropical high out here. Now, Monday, July 28th, you can see this tropical wave bringing some very nice rains here to Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, all the way through Dominican Republic. Also, another tropical wave moving through Nicaragua and Honduras here. And we got another strong tropical wave southeast of the Lesser Antilles. Another front stalling across the southeast coastline and the Eastern Gulf that we'll have to watch out for some potential spin-up action off the southeast U.S. coast through the north central Gulf come through July 29th here. Now, look at this. I want to draw your attention to this. This has been the most promising longer term here. This wave moving into the northwestern Caribbean as it slowly emerges into the Gulf come the last day of July. Plenty of time to watch this, but here it is across the Eastern Gulf and the southeast coast, that stalled frontal boundary. And more tropical wave action we'll be watching in the Eastern Caribbean. Sea surface temperature analysis, it is so shocking that we did not get a spin up into Dexter in the north central Gulf. Look at this. We are right around 2 to as much as 3 degrees above average here. That's kind of crazy. But look at up the East Coast. Lots of boiling water Very warm for this time of year. Even the Lesser Antilles, we're warming up a little bit out by the Cape Verde Islands. Look at the northwestern Caribbean, too. That is going to need to be watched. And looking at our precipitation amounts here on our European run, you can see a lot of it's going to be across the Ohio Valley through the first and second part of the weekend here. And then we surge moisture again along the Gulf Coast, the middle to latter portion of next week. Look at off the southeast coast as well. And look at this storm track from the Midwest down and through the Ohio Valley. That is going to remain pretty prevalent here. That's going to make things very stormy right in these two corridors where some areas could see 2 to as much as 6 inches of rain. All right, so we're taking a look at nationally here on the GFS rainfall amounts on our latest run here. You can see it's pretty similar to the European run. Gulf Coast up the southeast coast through next week. Yeah, you get the idea. It's the same areas getting hit over and over again. It's these two zones right in here. This is where the worst parts of these storms are going to be, and you can see some of these areas approaching 6-8 inches of rain here into these yellowish orangish areas. All right, so for the Western Caribbean here, this is what we're looking for. Surge of moisture across Central America. Unfortunately, as we head on into the weekend, there is some showers Sunday and Monday around Jamaica. Watch out, splash and dash showers. Could amount to anywhere close to 40, maybe as much as 50 millimeters in some of these locations. Dominican Republic as well. Belize and Honduras, about the same here. Now watch as we surge through the end of the month, right to August 1st. We start to see a lot more tropical wave action, not just for Central America here, where there could be 200, 250 millimeters of rain. But look at Jamaica here, through the Cayman Islands, Dominican Republic. This is where we could see some totals approach 100 millimeters. So I think wetter times are ahead for Jamaica. Cayman Islands a little bit less, 40 to 60 millimeters. Dominican Republic up towards 80 millimeters in some of these central and eastern locations. Maybe the south coast up towards 150. So depending on where you are. Look at onto Honduras here. Some areas close to 150, 170 millimeters. Same for Belize. Some of the southern coastline of Belize getting upwards close to 200 millimeters. And if we take a look at the Western Caribbean here, filling it in as we go through Wednesday. Yeah, there's some showers kicking up Sunday through Wednesday next week in Jamaica. That's some great news. Surges of moisture here, Belize, Nicaragua, Honduras, also portions of the Dominican Republic. Now, as we head later in the month, this takes us all the way through. Actually, let's make sure we have the latest GFS here. So this takes us through the 30th because it's still running. But look at this. Here's the GFS. This takes us all the way through the 30th. I want to show you. Look at Belize here. 300 millimeters all the way up and down the coast. Northeastern Nicaragua through portions of Honduras, 300 millimeters. Look at Jamaica, though. Just like on the European model, some areas, Portland Parish, upwards of 153 millimeters. Many areas getting 60, 80, close to 100. That's some great news. Cayman Islands a bit less here, a rain hole 18 to 30 millimeters. Look at Dominican Republic and Haiti as well, really bubbling up those convective developments with some of these tropical waves. Portions of Puerto Rico upwards of 3 to 4 inches too, so watch out. 100, 150 millimeters in some of these heaviest rainfall totals. Now, looking at the Eastern Caribbean here, you can see what's going on. We have some tropical moisture, tropical wave action continuing, and that's going to surge come the last week of July. Look at this. Yeah, the Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago, some of these areas could be getting upwards of 125, 140 millimeters of rain. We're just going to follow that up the Lesser Antilles here. Some of these areas eclipsing 120, 130 millimeters. Looks like Puerto Rico, you're getting anywhere from around 1.5 inches, close to 2.5 inches. So watch out. Virgin Islands, you're getting a little bit less here, anywhere from about 25 to 50 millimeters. And here into the Eastern Caribbean, this is where things are going to really heat up. Now, this coming week, it's kind of quiet. We have some tropical wave action kicking in, but watch this as we head that last week of July. Things really start to surge. Trinidad, Tobago, some of these areas upwards of 180 millimeters, going all the way up the Lesser Antilles, widespread 60 to 100 totals, some areas approaching 120 millimeters. All right, so let's take a look at our Invest 93L system, the rainfall associated with it. Yeah, you're going to see, I think these models have been underdoing totals, obviously, but this is through Sunday. Many areas approaching 2, 3, 4 inches. But then as we see that next system propagating along the Gulf Coast, that's going to add more totals as we head towards the end of July, beginning of August. So yeah, by all said and done, some areas could be closing in on 6 to 8 inches. I also wanted to show you our big surge of moisture with our next potential tropical system moving across Florida and the southeast coastline here into the North Gulf Coast. Yeah, many areas approaching 4, 5, 6. Look at this off the coast, 8, 9, 10 inches. So watch out. Widespread 2 to 6 inches likely. Here in the Western Pacific, other than tropical moisture, we don't have any prospects in the short term here. Now, there's a lot of tropical moisture around this subtropical high off the coast of Japan. Kind of reminds you of the U.S. East Coast, doesn't it, with this subtropical high? But here it is. It's pushing tropical moisture further westward into Seoul, South Korea, and across the entire Korean peninsula here through Friday into Saturday. That does start to let up a bit. Also, interior China here getting a lot of rain. Look at Japan, though. That ridge building westward here, that's going to keep this tropical pipeline much further to your south over the next several days. And look at this. This develops into some kind of storm. At this point, it looks more synoptic, although this out here looks a little bit more tropical, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. So yeah, these over here look synoptic. Just a tremendous amount of moisture with them. But although this one starts to look a little questionable by around the mid to latter portion of next week towards the 24th into the 25th. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Even some synoptic storms this time of year can form into massive tropical cyclones and typhoons. So that is going to bring another surge of moisture into Japan. And I know a lot of you follow me for what the correlation is between Eastern Asia, Japan in particular, to the U.S. East Coast and East Coast of Canada, Eastern North America. And unfortunately, this would correlate pretty well with storminess heading into, the first part of August. And there it is, massive tropical moisture moving up through portions of the Korean Peninsula, western and central parts of Japan as well. And these are some really interesting storms. They're not fully signifying full-fledged typhoons, but we're getting there. We still have that threat as we go through July 29th here. And you can see the Philippines as we go through time. We'll just start out here. Most of the worst of it stays on the north coast of the Philippines. Central and southern Philippines look pretty okay at this point as we head through next week. Now look at as we head through the 26th, the 27th, you get some of this. You get the idea that the northern Philippines are definitely going to get the highest rainfall totals. All right, so here is the total liquid equivalent precipitation. Yeah, northern Philippines through Taiwan, southeast China, and then eventually the southern Japanese islands here. This actually takes us through August 2nd here, but you can see, yeah, southern Korean peninsula, some areas over 120, 150 millimeters, all the way portions of the southern Japanese islands here, upwards of 450 millimeters. There's, look at Taiwan, 913, and there's the west coast of the northern Philippines, upwards of 1,164 millimeters. That is some tremendous rainfall there. All right, so looking at our HRRR future radar, obviously we're going to be watching our tropical, what's left of our tropical downpours here across southern Louisiana. As we head into Thursday night into Friday morning, you can see this flaring up. Yeah, it's actually Lake Charles all the way down southwest of New Orleans here, all on the coast, Lafayette here, and getting into Beaumont, Port Arthur here, through 3 p.m. on Friday. And watch out, we could have some of these feeder bands spinning up on the east side of this as well, pummeling parts of Mississippi and Alabama. So even though this didn't develop into a tropical storm, you can see the spin here across eastern Texas by about Saturday morning, 3 a.m., and you still see the spin in the atmosphere. So we're still going to see the threat of flooding here, expanding westward as we go in time, but even over towards the panhandle of Florida, and here along the south coast of Louisiana, we're still going to see these flare-ups. Now, oh, look at this. I'm going to get into this. We're starting to get into some very big mesoscale convective systems. So as we head throughout the night into tomorrow morning, want to make note, it's much pleasant times ahead here for the Northeast and Ohio Valley, for Friday anyways, with the exception for areas south of Interstate 80 here. So towards just south of Pittsburgh here through 1 p.m. Friday. We're getting a flare-up of showers and thunderstorms across Virginia. I'll tell you, Virginia has been so hard hit lately into interior North Carolina especially. And we're going to watch these showers and thunderstorms pop up through Friday evening. I know this is not a great way to start your weekend, but here it is, all the way down and through portions of Arkansas there. Now the nation's capital. Now, 3 a.m. on Saturday morning. I want to draw your attention to this up here. Mesoscale models have been really grabbing a hold of this, and this is our weekend system. It's super energized, and it's dropping out of the Midwest, and look at what it's doing to Chicago here through 11 a.m. on the 19th. So as we get into Saturday morning, this system heading south and east here, this could really cause some serious problems through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and eastern Michigan here. So watch out. This is Saturday. This is going to be heading for the rest of the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley and the eastern Great Lakes and Northeast for Saturday evening and Saturday night. And severe weather for your Friday. We're looking right around Virginia and northeastern North Carolina and also parts of the plains here. I know this area just doesn't need any more. I know this is getting to be a pretty well broken record at this point. And Saturday, we're going to watch that severe weather pivot east across Iowa, Illinois, eventually Ohio. This is going to race east Saturday night into parts of the eastern Great Lakes, Northeast, and parts of the Mid-Atlantic. All right, so the GFS picking up where our future radar left off, and then I'll show you the European model momentarily. So here we go through the 20th, going into the weekend here. There's Saturday, 2 p.m. So you get the idea. Stormy times are ahead here from the Midwest, portions of the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic. And look at this, the 20th. Yeah, you get a surge overnight, Saturday night. Some of these storms pushing to the east. That's what we're going to watch for. Those storm complexes I showed you on the future radar, those are going to be slipping eastward here. Obviously, they're going to weaken some, but look at that. Getting into New England around 11 a.m. So we could have some kind of mesoscale convective complex there. And then look at this. As we continue through the 21st, this is that stalled frontal boundary. So that I was covering this in the tropics. That's where you're going to have to watch out. I wanted to draw your attention up here. Mesoscale convective complex, that does lift up to the northeast through the 23rd here. Watching the Gulf here for a potential tropical spin-up, kind of just south of where our Invest 93L system is right now. But as we continue through time, the 25th into the 26th, I want to show you the overall pattern along the East Coast. And it's going to show up very readily on the Euro as well. Look at this. This is a trough. This is like a cutoff low starting to form around the Carolinas. And I know you don't want to hear this in the Carolinas. Up and down the U.S. East Coast here. But here it is, 27th to the 28th. You're going to start to get some of these coastal lows kick up the coast. And you're going to get one right after another, some development. Here's the 30th. We get some energy back through portions of the Ohio Valley. Another mesoscale convective complex moving through northern Ohio here, right around the 30th. That's going to re-energize our low-pressure systems along the East Coast. So there it is, a big old trough along the East Coast with a cutoff low just sitting down here. And I just wanted to show you a few more here on, look at July 31st here into August 1st. Yeah, this is a lot of deep tropical moisture just riding up the coast. Lots of showers and storms. This looks terrible, especially for those of you that have just seen so much rain. It's just so strange how the pattern seems to have flipped on a dime, kicking that dry can down the road once again. All right, so for our European run here, picking up where our future radar left off, as we head on into the weekend, you can see it's very stormy across the Midwest, the portions of the Western Lakes here, also southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, as we head later Saturday afternoon. Look at these showers and thunderstorms organizing as we head into Sunday morning, eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, western New York. Look at this. We could have some convection firing here. The Euro, I notice, is much more prevalent with this convection, and then heading towards New England as we head later on into Sunday evening here with low pressure actually initiating right around Maine here. Now, as we get into Monday into Tuesday, we get a low pressure that moves from the Midwest down and through parts of the Carolinas here. We have a tail end of a front stalling off the coast. This is where we're going to have some potential problems off the Carolina coast. This low kind of gets cranking. moves across southern Georgia through Tuesday. I covered this in the tropics. So look at here to the north. We're reloading some more mesoscale convective systems. But look at this. Yeah, the big story is going to be what happens again here in the Gulf as we head through the July 24th, 25th. Now, I just want to back this up. Look at these mesoscale convective systems organizing the Midwest and parts of the lakes. Those drop across Michigan, western New York, western Pennsylvania, maybe clipping northern Ohio. Look at that. That is some major convective action across northern Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. A low pressure gets blasting up through the Canadian Maritimes here. Look at this. We continue to see, tropical moisture just hanging out across the southeast as these tropical waves, kind of develop along this tail end of the front and pivot towards the west. That's a pattern we seem to be in here. So we're going to have to watch out. Even though we didn't get Dexter here with this system, we're going to have to watch this as we go through the end of the month. This is the pattern, and look at this. Ring of Fire MCS pattern up here through the lakes into the northeast. Watch out. Some of these could pack a punch here through the 29th into the 30th as these dive south towards North Carolina. And look at this. Unfortunately, as we head through Wednesday, the 30th, we just get an upper level low that just sits here. Now, granted, it'll be cooler. That's the great news, but it's going to spin up a lot of rainfall throughout that last week of July into the beginning of August. And look at that. To greet us the first day of August, we have this low pressure along the northeastern Gulf and the northeast coast. And looking at our precipitation amounts here on our European run, you can see a lot of it's going to be across the Ohio Valley through the first and second part of the weekend here. And then we surge moisture again along the Gulf Coast, the middle to latter portion of next week. Look at off the southeast coast as well. And look at this storm track from the Midwest down and through the Ohio Valley. That is going to remain pretty prevalent here. That's going to make things very stormy right in these two corridors where some areas could see 2 to as much as 6 inches of rain. All right, so we're taking a look at nationally here on the GFS rainfall amounts on our latest run here. You can see it's pretty similar to the European run. Gulf Coast up the southeast coast through next week. Yeah, you get the idea. It's the same areas getting hit over and over again. It's these two zones right in here. This is where the worst parts of these storms are going to be. And you can see some of these areas approaching 6-8 inches of rain here into these yellowish-orangish areas. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I always love to respond to your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you hadn't subscribed, hit that subscribe bell notification button. Let's get my channel to 20,000 subscribers. And don't forget, if you haven't watched my Hurricane 2025 Outlook, it's a link in the end of this video and this link in the description down below. Let's continue with more weather coverage. All right, so let's take a look at our upper air weather pattern here. Yeah, it's going to be a trough dropping across the lakes and into the northeast. That's going to provide another cool shot, especially from Monday into Tuesday next week. But look at how this firecracker ridge really takes over. Ring of Fire is going to be in action here around, especially the northern edge of this. So watch out as we head through July 25th here. And look at this. We're going to have little impulses ride north of it. But unfortunately, yeah, the last part of July, I know things were supposed to get nicer. They will get cooler, but it looks like things may be getting wetter along the East Coast as we have this unexpected cutoff low just taking shape along the entire East Coast through August 1st. All right, the NAO index here is negative, but we're going to go towards neutral come the last part of July into August. That'll help equalize the weather pattern and quiet it down a tad. And for the MJO index, we are in phase 5. We are heading towards 6. In potentially 7 as we get later on into July, into August. So that would maybe signify that we could be looking more active in eastern North America. I know that's something a lot of you do not want to hear. All right, so looking at our Canadian weather outlook here, if we can get this going, there we are. So we got a big storm moving into the Canadian Maritimes as we head throughout Friday. Now, there is another storm that's going to be much more important here into southern and central Alberta. This is going to provide some relief for those wildfires. And now look at southern Ontario and Quebec. Over the weekend, we're going to get into some mesoscale convective systems here across parts of southern Ontario. And as we head into next week, look at this, the 21st, It seems like we have some storminess over here into Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Also another big storm across Manitoba area here. So watch out. That's going to be winding up as we go through time, spreading some severe weather eastward here across Ontario and southern Saskatchewan and Alberta here. So we got some beneficial rain heading our way as we head through the 23rd. This is what I wanted to draw your attention to. Look at these mesoscale convective complexes here, moving from the Midwest into parts of southern Ontario and Quebec. That's going to be quite some storminess as it moves up through, and then it kind of fills in and occludes. But another big storm complex moves into southern Ontario around the 24th and 25th. So severe weather threat is remaining pretty elevated here across southern Ontario and Quebec as we head through time. Watch this little feature right around the 25th, diving southward towards Alberta. That is some great news. It could kick off some showers and thunderstorms east of it, but some very beneficial rain as well. As we head through the end of the month, you can see storminess continuing across much of southeastern Canada here, southern Quebec. Look at New Brunswick as we get an area of a coastal storm trying to take over here. Also, severe weather blossoming across Saskatchewan and Manitoba, even back towards southern Alberta. So we'll watch for big-time storms here cranking up across the Canadian Maritimes. And there is our last frame for July 29th. So for our Canadian rainfall amounts here, yeah, Southeast Canada is getting the lion's share of the rain. Also here into portions of the Southern Rockies and some of these areas where you see the wildfires continuing. That's some great news. It seems like we're getting a lot of rain up here in Canada. Look at some of these rainfall totals in the eclipsing 100 millimeters in many of these southern Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, the Canadian Maritimes, all the way over through the Central Prairies here. Look at this. Central and southern Alberta, even northwestern Alberta where the wildfires have been burning as well. Southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, some areas 60 to 120 millimeters of rain. Temperatures are going to be back and forth for many, and fortunately for the deep south, look at that. You just stay well into the 90s here. But look at the Midwest, the lakes in the Northeast. We get a shot of 70s and even some upper 60s here into northern parts of Minnesota. I don't think anybody's complaining here into Saturday, July 19th. Look at this. You have upper 70s, low 80s to the north. Unfortunately, look at the heat building even out west here. Lots of boiling heat, mid to upper 90s, interior Carolinas through the Central Plains into Sunday, July 20th. Look at this. Oh, this is nice. Hopefully we can just keep this coming across the lakes, the Midwest and the Northeast. In a Monday, look at that, 80s. Unfortunately, look what's building here. You knew the heat wave was reloading here with 100s. And unfortunately, you know what that means? Tuesday, July 22nd, look at the surge of 90s here. We're going to watch this propagate towards the Northeast as we head into Wednesday, July 23rd. Unfortunately, there are the readings getting into the 90s. The Eastern Lakes, Ohio Valley, into the Northeast. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, bringing them to the Scranton's Upper Susquehanna River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Wow, don't we wish that every day this summer could be like Friday, sunny and in the upper 70s. That's beautiful, low humidity. Unfortunately, Saturday, we bring the warm front back through, mid 80s and showers and thunderstorms. Probably likely later in the afternoon and evening into the overnight Saturday night. Watch out, some of these storms could pack a punch, damaging wind, large hail. Maybe a few showers and thunderstorms left over, mainly through early afternoon Sunday. And look at Monday. If you have Monday off, it's just like Friday, sunny and in the upper 70s. But unfortunately, later next week, we push right back into the 90s with more boiling heat and severe weather. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteorMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteorMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteorMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.